welcome to the video. That is not my GT4 wrapped in racing yellow. That is in fact a 718 Cayman GT4 RS, the bigger brother to my GT4. Is it £150,000 better than my GT4? And I'm talking used car prices here. If you were to quickly go on Auto Trader, they're sitting at £250,000. And if you look at a GT4 on Auto Trader, you can pick one up for £100,000. So that's the title of the video. Porsche GB have lent me this car for the whole bank holiday weekend, 3 full days. So I want to say a big shout out and thank you to Porsche GB for lending me this car. And I also want to say a big thank you to all of you guys for supporting me to where I am today, because I wouldn't be borrowing a £250,000 car to review on the channel if it wasn't for you guys. Now, there's some stupid weird stat where 90% of my viewers aren't actually subscribed to any of my videos. So if you're new to the channel, please do hit that subscribe button below. It helps me get more cars like this to bring to you guys to watch on the channel. But also, I'm going to be filming 4 videos on this GT4 RS. So I'm going to be talking about different kind of things in each video. If you're not subscribed, please do hit that subscribe button below so you don't miss out on the rest of the videos. So I'm still kind of pinching myself a little bit that I've got the keys to this. I have been running on pure adrenaline since picking this car up. This is a fully fledged RS car. I have not put the keys down, and when you're driving it, the engine is right behind you. There's just so much going on that I haven't had a chance to kind of just relax and bring myself down. So filming this video here has given me a chance to kind of just bring myself back down to earth and film this video for you guys and just kind of talk a little bit about why it's special. So, what makes this so special? Why are people losing their minds over a GT4 RS? Well, apart from the fact that it's covered in carbon, we've got carbon wing mirrors, carbon air intakes, carbon wing. You can even see the engine in the back here. Apart from that, this is the first time there has been a GT-derived engine in a Cayman Boxster car and a Cayman Boxster chassis. If you didn't know already, my Cayman GT4 actually has an engine from the 911. It's had the turbos removed, then bored out to 4 litres. GT department have played with it a little bit and then kind of put that engine in my car. So it's not really a true GT car, right? It doesn't have a true GT engine in. This car does. It's got the engine straight from the GT3 slapped into this, and this is the first time in Porsche history that Porsche have ever done that. That's what makes this car so special. Now, why are they doing this? Well, as you know, electric cars are inbound imminently, and the next 718 replacement, whatever that will be, is going to be an electric car. So kind of a farewell to the ICE Cayman Boxster lineup. Porsche decided to put a GT3 engine in and go all out with it. The reason Porsche didn't do that before, and they've never put a GT3 engine in a Cayman or Boxster chassis before, is because they didn't want the Cayman lineup to be a better car than its bigger brother, the 911. If you didn't know, the 911 engine sits right at the very back of the car, whereas on a Cayman Boxster, the engine sits in the middle of the car, right behind the seats. So physics, this is actually a better car because the center of gravity is more in the middle. And so Porsche never wanted this to kind of outperform its bigger brother. But because we're saying goodbye to the ICE engine now, Porsche have gone all out. They've done what people thought they would never do, and that's why people are going absolutely nuts for it. And even more than that is that every dealer around the country here in the UK, there's only one car going to each dealer. Now, I think some dealers are starting to get more allocations, so they are able to build a few more cars and get them to people. But originally, when this car was released, only one car was coming to every dealer, and so it's become extremely limited. And if they're extremely limited, extremely brilliant, it's gonna have a very high price tag. And that is why they go for 150 grand more than a GT4, because of all those extra upgrades and specialness to this car. This will be a future classic. And so, is it worth spending an extra 150 grand to get this over my GT4? Because really, it's just an engine change, right? Right, let's compare some stats between the GT4 and this car, because it can't just be an engine change, it's got to be more than that, right? I'm also going to be comparing throughout this whole video a PDK GT4 to a GT4RS PDK, because this car only comes as a PDK, the automatic. You cannot get a manual in this car, so it only makes it fair to compare a GT4 PDK to this. My GT4 PDK does 414 bhp. This does 496 bhp, so an extra 80 horsepower. Can you feel that on the road? Yes and no. My car is very fast anyway, so this car is stupidly fast too. I have done kind of slow 30 mile an hour to speed limit rolling races with my friends in their GT4s, and this car maybe slowly pulls away, but it's not night and day difference. This car revs to 9,000 RPM and my car revs to 8,000 RPM. So that extra 1,000 RPM before you shift also makes a little bit of a difference. You can really feel it pulling before it shifts. Again, my car's manual, this is PDK. PDK also gives it a little bit more of an urgency than my manual car. So can I really notice the 80 brake horsepower difference? A little bit, but I think there's a few other little factors that are going on too. The engine in my GT4 is a naturally aspirated 4-litre flat 6. This is also a naturally aspirated 4-litre flat 6. Like I said, my engine's out of the Carrera, turbos removed, bored out to 4 litres. This is straight from the GT3, Motorsport derived GT engine. 0 to 60 in the GT4 is 3.9 seconds PDK. This is 3.4 seconds PDK 0 to 60, so it's only a few seconds faster 0 to 60. Don't forget, both cars are rear-wheel drive, and so you're going to be taking into consideration what the weather's like, what kind of tyres you're running as well. Just out of interest, my manual GT4 0 to 60 is 4.4 seconds, so quite a big difference. What is this car like to drive? Well, cruising down the motorway, just going along at a steady speed, it actually feels exactly the same as my GT4. The suspension feels exactly the same. Now, I imagined an RS to be, you know, track car of a track car. It's supposed to be really stiff, really like bumpy, really turned up all the way. but the 4RS was always designed to be more road compliant than track compliant. So I imagine a GT4RS, which I've never been in, by the way, especially the new 992 generation, I imagine that to be really uncomfortable and unusable on the road. But this car, even though it's an RS, it drives and feels exactly the same as my GT4. It feels so similar to my car. I hopped in and I was able to drive it straight away. I want to show you something really cool whilst we're just pottering along at a consistent speed. If I try to say gain 2-3 miles an hour, just speed up a tiny bit, it's got this really cool thing where you can hear the taps open. And I say taps because think of when you turn a tap on and then someone in the bathroom turns the tap on in your house and you're in another room. You hear the boiler turn on, or you hear the pipes turn on because all the water starts running through the pipes. That's exactly what this sounds like. Let me demonstrate. I'm just gonna go up 2-3 miles an hour. Is that coming across on camera? The sounds that you're getting behind you just by adding a little bit of throttle, it's mental. Maybe I should just remove the lining on my GT4 so I could hear the engine a bit more. Because on my car, the whole engine, you can't see it. There's just carpet, there's lining all over it. This, I can see it, I can touch it. Obviously there's a cover, carbon fiber, but the engine's there's no lining on top. So this GT4RS is actually lighter than the 911 GT3 by about 20 kilos, and it's lighter than the new 992 GT3RS by around about 40 kilos. So this is the lightest GT3 engine car that you can get. Because, like I said, the engine's in the middle, it gives it this really nice go-karty feel. It's really fun to drive. And so because this car has more BHP, it's way lighter even compared to its 911 bigger brother. Those two combined together, mid-engine, super compliant on the road, it makes this car super fun. This thing is like a go-kart. I am on country roads, it's bumpy, it's literally riding over them so well. I am not jumping up and down. It's so good. And that metallic sound in the last 1,000 revs before you shift, it sounds so good, and then you shift and it's gone. So it causes you to just keep chasing that red line, which you're rewarded for because you get all the power and the sound. So now you know the stats between my car and this car, you understand why it's so special. We're going to talk about the price between the two cars. So if you were to walk into a dealership and buy a GT4 and the dealership gives you a build slot, a reasonably spec'd one with PDK, Club Sport, that will take you to around about 90 to 100,000 pounds. If you were to do the same thing and walk in and buy a GT4RS, you get the Visac pack, which gives you all of the carbon on the outside, the bucket seats, the roll cage, that kind of thing. That would take you to 150,000 pounds. So a 50 grand increase between the two. Is this 50,000 pounds better than the GT4 if you were to buy each one at list? Absolutely. It is absolutely fantastic, and the step up between a GT4 to this RS is night and day. It's absolutely massive. But This car, by the way, is spec'd to £133,000. So Porsche GB haven't actually gone too mad on the spec here. But Porsche GT cars, being Porsche GT cars, because they're so limited and so hard to get build slots for, a lot of people have to go to the used market in order to get one. So currently in 2023, filming this in May, the used market for a GT4, same spec, PDK, etc., you can pick up a used GT4 for £100,000. So the GT4s haven't lost any money. You could buy one from the dealership and sell it for exactly what you paid for it. Basically a free car. Amazing, fantastic. But there's only 2 cars on Auto Trader at the moment when I last looked, and they're both going for £250,000 for a GT4RS. £150,000 more than a standard GT4. So the question I'm trying to find out today is it actually 150% better? Is it really worth 150 grand more than a GT4? Because those used car prices, you know, value, market value prices, those kind of dictate how good the cars are. And are people just getting overexcited about the cars, the hype because they're limited? Is that the reason that they're going for that much? Or is it actually worth that much because of how good the car is? So I'm re-recording this conclusion because I've had some time to think about my experiences with the GT4RS and drive my GT4 again. And it's been a really, really tough question to answer. Is the 4RS double the GT4 in performance? 100%. And I'd probably argue more than double. But is it 150% or is it 150 grand worth more than a GT4? No. For 250k, you can pick up a lot of really good cars on the used market. And that really just shows how good the GT4RS is. It really punches so far above its weight. But I think the limit for me is that it's 100k better than the GT4. For 200k, I'd say, yep, buy a GT4RS. But that's the absolute top end limit for me. Really, I think it's probably 180k on the market. That's about right for a GT4RS. And at 200k, it's what a 992 GT3 sits at today, and I'd have a 4RS all day over a 992 GT3. A 992 is a better car, but the 4RS has just so much more drama and specialness to it. I mean, it's all relative, right? At the end of the day, it's how much cash you've got. 250k might be peanuts to you. 180k might be peanuts to you. But for me, I personally can't even drop 180k on a car because I just don't have that kind of cash. Either way, it's a fantastic car and it really, really does show how much it punches above its weight. It's not just a Cayman living in the shadow of its 911 bigger brother anymore that's seen as the flagship model. The GT4RS holds its own, and if you ever get the chance to drive one, please, please do. You'll realize how good this car really is. So we have arrived back at Porsche GB after a fantastic 4-day weekend with this car. I have absolutely loved every second of driving it. It's going to be very interesting getting back in mine. I sat in Charlie's PDK GT4 and it just didn't feel quite as good as this. It felt like it was lacking just a little bit more. It wasn't as dramatic. It felt a bit soft. It felt a bit slow actually. And so this is actually going to be a little bit depressing going from a GT4 RS to a GT4. Crazy world, right? But actually at the end of the day, it's still pretty awesome to say I've driven this and I'm getting into this. And that's my car, you know. I actually want to show you some cool stats. So over the course of the 4-day weekend, I have killed my good fair share of bugs. Absolutely destroyed them all. When I come inside here, I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but the whole windshield is covered in bugs as well. And I've done almost 1,000 miles in the GT4RS. So I reset the odometer when I got in the car, so it was 931 miles in a 4RS. You know, I think that's something pretty awesome and cool to say that I've driven a 4RS for 1,000 miles. Also, some interesting facts if you're interested. Throughout, I've been up on the last day since 7 in the morning. I've driven almost 9 hours, and I've got an MPG of about 18.9, average speed of 42 miles an hour. So you don't buy a 4RS to get good MPG, but there's an interesting fact for you there. And actually, over the total of the whole weekend, I reset it at the beginning. I did 16.7 MPG. So there's some cool facts for you. Driving time, almost 20 hours of driving in this car. So again, a pretty awesome experience. A big shout out and thank you again to Porsche GB for lending me a 4RS for the whole bank holiday weekend, 4 days. It's been a moment to remember, a core memory, something I'll take forward through to the rest of my life. I'll remember this day because this car has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you, Porsche GB, for supporting me in the channel. Thank you to you guys for supporting me and allowing me to kind of get access to these kind of cars. Driving home on the way here, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. I was thinking, which one would I buy, this or a or a GT3? I'd buy this over a GT3 all day long. This is just so much more dramatic. It's got so much drama. It's so usable. It's such a comfy car. It drives just like the GT4, but it just feels so much more special. It's nimble, it's small, and it's like a go-kart. I absolutely have loved this car, and I think this is my dream car now. I've just got to now find out how I can get one. So guys, thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, the usual. I'll see you later in the next video.